Okay, so we are live on both Facebook and Zoom. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining this webinar today. We are very fortunate to have Dr. Samir Iqbal here with us to talk about how to find research grants, find and talk to a professor in the university, find a program for research experience in some top universities, and prepare a compelling resume for your future success. This talk hopefully will be a very, very great help to the high school and college students. They will learn how to avail the summer internship opportunities in various universities. This talk is a result of a collaboration between STEM Matters, STEMmatters.org, and Young Professionals Society. Let me briefly give you an intro about these two organizations. STEM Matters is a recently founded organization by Dr. Samir Iqbal. The vision he has for this organization is to enable students to innovate, invent, and deliver quality solutions to contemporary challenges. The mission is to inspire students to excel in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and environment matters by nurturing their critical and analytical thinking skills. And the objectives that STEM Matters has for the community, especially for the youth, we want to nurture highly functioning teams to work together and create scientifically sound, innovative solutions to the world's complex problems. We want to create a community of young innovators trained in problem-solving skills. We want to develop high-level scientific programs to provide an international forum for scientific contact to learn, collaborate, and compete for meritorious outcomes. And the next objective is we want to empower students with the skill sets, for example, research, programming, leadership, and others to make them competitive in the higher end and marketplace, in higher education and marketplace. And we want to involve underprivileged youth as well. We don't want to forget about them. We want to make sure that we have also focused on underprivileged youth in science, technology, engineering, and environment matters. So this is our vision, mission, and objectives of STEM Matters. The other organization that is our sister organization is Young Professional Society. They are set up to help support and change the lives of youth by providing personal and professional development opportunities. And the aim is to bring to the forefront a more progressive, accomplished, and enlightened younger generation of people who will be representatives and leaders of their communities and who will contribute positively towards the wider society. So these two organizations, STEM Matters and Young Professional Society, both are working hard to bring amazing people to you so that we all can learn and elevate the discourse and be a great functioning contributors to our societies. So now let me introduce you all to Dr. Samir Iqbal. Dr. Iqbal is a professor and chief of the electrical engineering department at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, Texas, USA. He also holds a faculty appointment in the UT-RGV School of Medicine. Dr. Iqbal is a fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry and a senior member of IEEE. He has been a distinguished lecturer for IEEE EMBS since 2016. He's also a 2018 DL for the IEEE Nanotechnology Council. Dr. Iqbal has published extensively in the areas of nanobio interfaces of genes, proteins, and cellular levels, lab on a chip, cancer diagnostics using nanotechnology, applications of nanotextured materials in biosensing, and nanoscale devices for single molecule interrogation identification. He has also led work on developing high-speed imaging approaches and novel algorithms for single-cell analysis in real time. So a lot of other accomplishments of our wonderful, amazing guest lecturer today. I'm so glad and so happy to have him with us. Dr. Iqbal, over to you, and thank you again for joining us today.
All right, thank you, Shakil. Very many thanks for the introduction. But to be honest, all these accomplishments happened because I had good students. good students enabled me to be part of their uh, discovery path and to help them succeed. And I owe it to them. Thanks a lot for helping me. I appreciate Dr. Nasser Ali from UK, from Young Professional Society, who has also been part of a lot of things that we have done over years. So I had, and we have to know that there is a vested interest for people like me to do this kind of program. And in a very simple terms, our research and our growth happens because we need continuously a strong feed of young, energetic, and ambitious students. And when I say students, this is where we are focused today. We are focused at you in this seminar today. Because when energetic students, they find the path, people like me, professors who are in universities, and people who are in industry as well, they find you. They get these high achievers who can help them succeed onward. So let's get started. This is a picture I like to show this from Hawaii. In good old days when people were traveling around the world, and I just share it by saying that I have gone around the world, given talks all over the places because of good students, because of students who have helped us achieve high levels in research. I've had the honor to be part of many good uh, people, many good communities, many good conferences, and parts of many high level and high achieving groups. And when I say that I've been part of it, please don't take that I started here. I started from a different country, from a different background. In 2001, when I was young, 19-year-old, I joined the Navy in another country. But then in 2001, I came to USA. And if you look at my history before that, I had nothing to do with higher ed. I was on ships and submarines doing what a Navy officer would do. But then I had some good mentors, and we hope that we can do that little bit role of mentoring many people like you, many students who are in this room, many parents who are interested in having their kids do more than what an average kid does. So that's a little bit history. And before even joining the Navy, I come from a small town, not small in population, but kind of a town which is overpopulation, which is doesn't have too many uh, utilities. When it rains, we get water on our streets. So that's at my hometown in Pakistan where I came from. So just to give an idea that people like me have come through a path, and that's the path I want to share with you. That how do we do those things that we are not trained for? Where do we look for funding to study? Where do we find people that may be interested in mentoring us and helping us do good science and do good research, and help us grow and help us move ahead in lives? So this is uh, my transition from those that background to USA, and then going through a fantastic university, Purdue University. I went to Purdue University for PhD. That enabled me to go and see the world. And seeing the world, there are some steps that we hope that we will help you see today. That it doesn't happen overnight. Lots of hard work goes in. So places like Purdue University, good top universities prepare you to good work, to do good work, because you are in the company of those good people. And here I like to brag about, I've met a few Nobel laureates in my life because I was in the right group, I was in the right environment. And Dr. Nasser Ali has invited many Nobel laureates to his conferences. So Young Professional Society is also very active in giving you that opportunity to hear from big people who have done something really, really uh, different for us, what we are today. So my paths, when I got to Purdue, I started in software engineering. I was teaching software engineering. And if you don't know about Purdue University at that time, it still is number four and number five in engineering in USA, probably after Stanford, UC Berkeley, and MIT. So three, four big names, and then Purdue is one of those. And Purdue University is very well known in devices, solid state devices, computer chips, what we call. But at the time that I was there, it was also becoming a leader in what we call as biomedical engineering today, or biomems. I don't know uh, how true it is, but they used to say that Purdue was the first university in the world that started a biomedical engineering program, not a department, a program, which ultimately became that now every university has a biomedical engineering program. And why I want to talk about that, because that's those are the kind of opportunities you can get if you can find an internship opportunity or a research experience opportunity at a good university. You can be part of that group, that environment that can help you grow, that can help you achieve more than your peers can do. I have put a picture of Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong was also a Purdue graduate. I just want to brag about. I've been in. He passed away a few years ago, and we all know he was the first man on the moon, first human on the moon. And interestingly, we have known that he used to be on campus in many activities, but he would not like to be recognized. So I know I've been in the same place, same room with him, but I would have never seen him out because he didn't want to recognize. So now going into these good universities, good places, gives you a very high trajectory, gives you trajectory where the lots of awards and recognition comes with that. So again, in 3 years I got an award from Purdue University, and then I've been all over the world. This picture on the right hand side is uh, from a place called Gümüşhane University in Turkey, up in the mountains where you have to, like, nearest airport is probably 2 hours away by road. And the lower one is from India. So when you start with a good trajectory, there are good chances that you can reach some places which are far, far away, and they can have high impact. Mr. Shakil, I think somebody is annotating on the slide. Can you disable annotation? Anyway, I've taken care of. So, but yeah, you guys are free to write question in chat, and Mr. Shakil can stop me and help me stay on course to answer those questions. So how do we develop that ecosystem of growth where kids like me who come from developing countries, or kids who are already in developing countries, they can transition to MIT or places like MIT, that are known to have an impact on this world. So this is just a picture off of internet of some school in remote areas in Pakistan and MIT graduates. But the idea is that if you know, if you have the will, we can find the path, we can walk the path, and we can do what every other people have done. Now, I put some pictures of some top schools, especially related to STEM. What is the common ingredient in all of those? What is the common feature in all of these good universities? Like we had a gentleman from Cambridge yesterday. The common ingredient is good students. That's what makes these places good. Now, how do we see which one is a good student and which one is not? That's what we hope that we can help you build a trajectory, build a portfolio that can come out to show that you are a good student, and have places like Stanford, Purdue, Berkeley, Glasgow, Lincoln be interested in having you in their programs, having you in their undergraduate and graduate programs. Now, but how do we get there? How do we find research grants to fund our studies? How do we even talk to a professor and see if they he or she would be interested in getting me as a mentee. Now, if you don't want to be part of a lab, then maybe high school, how do I find a research experience in a university? And and of course, you find a program, but then the big question is, how do you get in? How do you prepare a compelling resume that can let you, that can make them really interested in you? And trust me, this is not a US thing that I'm talking about. This is common to Europe, UK. This is common for even Middle East universities as well, because lots of developed world has opened campuses in Middle East and Far East, even the fantastic institutions in Far East. Uh, Now, there are specific activities that you can do, and I can admit that in 1 hour, I can only show you the tip of the iceberg. There is so much to it. But our goal here today is to at least show you that this is doable and there are specific channels that are available there. Now, on your side, as a student, as a parent, you have to realize that it's a two-way traffic. The institutions on the other side also are also interested in good students like you. But you have to market yourself. You have to prepare yourself. You have to have a compelling resume for them to invest in you, right? And how do the first step is the funding? How do I find those dollars, those British pounds, those euros, or even reals and ringgits to go through that education, that maybe an undergrad or graduate? Yes, so there are many fellowships available. I can tell you that there are, if you can find the exact location of ISS through your computer right now, and it is true, you can find that. You go through NASA website, they'll tell you exactly where it is right now. You can find fellowships. Many embassies, consulates have programs. I know for US, they have a bunch of programs from State Department. I know UK has British consuls all around the world who work with students like you, who tell them paths for those fellowships. Now, if I'm in a country, say Pakistan, I have to admit, I have to know that I'm competing with the rest of my fellow Pakistani students of my age. So you have to have a resume to be able to compete with them. There are grants. So grants coming from either the countries, those developing countries or developed countries, both, that can help you fund those. There are some special interest groups. I know for sure there's L'Oreal women fellowships there, which fund women students to come to higher education in Western world. There are, for disabled, there are many special interest groups who are interested in helping those minority segment who are not too many there in STEM areas. Within our countries, within US, UK, for example, there are federal agencies, there are national agencies who fund especially undergraduate research in higher education. And I know National Science Foundation, I'll be sharing some examples there on next few slides. There's National Institutes of Health in USA, which is the flagship on health related research. If you know Dr. Fauci from US, who is a passionate front man again in the fight against COVID-19. He's from NIH, one of the institutes in NIH. In EU, there is Erasmus program, who is that, and UK still is part of Erasmus, which is again focused on undergraduate research. So for US, if you just Google REU NSF, you'll find that federal government is spending millions of dollars every year to fund undergraduate experience. So RU is research experience for undergrad. Now, where is that money? That money is coming to universities. If you go to NSF website, they have clear lists of how much money has gone to which university. If I'm in an area, say I'm in Dallas, I can easily find which Dallas universities have got REU funding, because that's where I'm going. Those are the people I'm targeting and trying to get my foot in the door to get that uh, paid research experience. I know there's things have changed for COVID-19, but there are special ways how it's happening. So we'll talk about that also when we get there. There's the Erasmus program, which is European Community Action Scheme for the Mobility of University Students. That the name itself tells you all about it. I have met students all over the world who were ready to come for Erasmus to EU, and they asked me that if I had something for them for US. So this is happening. There are students who are going across nations to, especially coming to Europe to have an experience for research. Now, why should we do that? Or what is the benefit that you would get? Yeah, I'm already doing lots of homework, and these days I'm working on so many activities, assignments online through from my school. Why should I do that? It's again, you are preparing yourself for a higher trajectory. You are preparing yourself to be in a group of people who can define future, who can define where things go. I can tell you, and not to brag about, but reality, going to Purdue helped me be part of a network of people, high achievers who are now at very key positions in United States. In 15 years, my class fellows are vice presidents. They are making decisions for major companies. So that gives you a network, right? If you now, when you say research experience, we're talking about working in an actual proper lab. We're not talking about a general purpose chemistry lab we are working with a professor on very specific project. You have an opportunity to become co-author on a paper, research paper, real research paper, whether it's going to a conference, whether it's going to be in a journal. Many professors, they have the competitions come around to them, but they don't want to put their graduate students to work on those competitions because graduate students are doing bigger things. So you can work in a professor's lab and take that research and develop into a competition. It happens a lot. And I have had students in my lab who went and won first prize, second prize in those competitions, which young student, high school student, undergrad, if they were not there, I would have never thought about it. So you can enable that. It gives you outreach capabilities, outreach activities. I have sent my undergrads, my high school kids to go and give talks in their own school. And wow, their peers were awed that, oh, how do you know all this? In one summer, in 2, 3 months, you can really learn what is happening at the top of that area. Now, when you say uh, you can be first author, you can be co-author. These all the red names I put here, these are all co-authors with some of papers who were undergrad or high school students. And now they can brag about this for forever because this is on their resume. This has made a compelling resume for them. Right? So now if it is so important, but what does the industry want? What does the STEM industry want? So there is a survey. There was a survey for 1,000 and more employers that what is the number one skill they want in their new employees. So they say they want universities to give more instruction in written and oral communication. How do we give them written and oral communication? There is a set class structure. You have courses which are well defined, how many credits will you be allowed and all that. How do we, how can universities push more communication in this? But this is where if you work in a real lab, you get experience to be doing written and oral communication because what happens in a lab, you are creating new stuff, creating new material, you're writing new things, you are expressing maybe the experiments that you're doing. Uh, by the way, this thing on the right hand side, I a long time ago when I was student, I wrote the whole process of how would I mix and match chemicals. And you see my handwritten notes, I was creating new science there. I was creating new numbers right there. And of course, when you publish, then these things get typed up and you put them in your research article. This is your communication training for your real world, where you are working with team. And team is not just your class fellows. Team are these are people who may be senior, junior, postgrad, uh, postdocs, undergrads. So you're not just dealing with different uh, age group, you're dealing with different knowledge group as well. That gives you a capability to talk, communicate with them. And more importantly, you work under pressure because there are always deadlines. There are always things that need to be done by a specific date, and you don't have a textbook to do that. There's no solution manual available to that. But that's what makes a real functional lab. And of course, when you have done all that, you develop your critical and analytical thinking skills. You can make decisions at the spur of the moment because you have the experience of looking through data or making sound decisions. And you get recognition for that, right? Again, those papers that get published or the conferences where you go, people are there to listen to you. So that's what makes a functional lab
Okay, well, you're there. Did we lose him? 1 second, let me try to call him. He's reconnecting. Sorry about that. Some internet issues. This is online,
yeah,
so
this is a problem that kids like you need to solve one day. That we are doing everything online and still we are not good enough to keep a professor online for 30 minutes. Anyway, so Ms. Shakil, let me know when we are ready to go back online or to go
yes,
back
we're
live.
good. Go ahead. Please continue.
All right. So how do I talk to a professor? How do I find it? Professors are big people. They are famous and they are so busy. Yeah, all of these things are true. But remember that their business does not work without you. They make careers with on 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 students like you. So yeah, no professor is ever too busy to talk to a good student. To good student. Now, how do I define good student? We'll get there. That how do you make a compelling resume that you are a good student? And for anyone who is always working on new project, new deadlines, working on writing new grant proposal, that person is always looking for new people, for energetic students. How do we talk to, who do I talk to? There are like 1,000 professors in the university. All right, let me break it down. Every university, every institution, every department, every funding agency, they like to brag. They like to brag. What does that mean? They want to show off. What do they want to show off? They want to show off the professor who's got funding, who wrote a golden proposal and got $100,000 or 200 or $1 million grant that is coming now through the university. They want to brag about it. There is always going to be a news item about it. So for funding agency, since they are mostly not the foundation, so funding agency, they get funded by public money, right? Taxpayers, you and me. So they want to brag about that. See, your tax money is going to uh, do funding on machine learning based cancer diagnostics, for example. To they want to show taxpayers that your money is spent on the right place. They will give out news items. You have to look for those news items. So that will help you identify those professors who are doing specific projects. Now, when a professor gets $1 million, he doesn't have 20 people on his waiting list. Like in industry, there is an HR department. They say, okay, we'll keep your application on file. No, professors don't have applications on file because students come, they graduate, they move on, and professors are always looking for good students who can continue their push for their research. You talk to them, you see they'll be interested in talking to you and hearing about you. Now, there are, what are those news again? You're looking for when somebody gets new funded project, when somebody has published a new paper, when they have some new finding which is on the news and all those places, when if a university starts a new center, for example. So and this is again all over the world, from USA all the way to Far East, everywhere it happens. So this is what you look for, and you say, okay, this is the person I want to talk to. But there may be multiple professors who are doing that. Now, this is the tricky part. If you suppose you are an electrical engineering major and you want to work on machine learning, it's not necessary that only the electrical engineering professors are doing that work. You can look for computer science people, computer engineering people. You can look for psychology people. I've had friends who are doing computation work in psychology. So I'll ignore the questions which are there on the top right. Just let's follow the list. So you make the list, you look at labs in departments, and you list the professors on the question they're working on, not necessarily the department they belong to or the departments they belong to. You look at the question because that's where your heart should be, in that kind of direction. Again, I said in that direction because yeah, you cannot define what kind of research you want to do. You can define what kind of direction you want to take, because in a lab there are multiple projects going on, and most of those projects have not seen the light of the day. They have not been discussed outside their lab. Yeah, when they do the announcement on their journal kind of funding, that doesn't have the details on what specific projects will be done to go in that direction. Because of course there's intellectual property, they might be filing a patent, they want to write papers, so they don't have that detail. But once you talk to current lab members, even if you're afraid of talking to professor, talk to the lab members. And you'll be amazed how responsive the lab members would be. If professor doesn't reply, his student will definitely reply in much faster, because yeah, the grad students and undergrad students working in the lab are many times, yeah, they want to brag about their work as well. And this is where it's helpful for you to know uh, what is happening, what is the lab environment, how much is the professor involved into day-to-day activities. So that's where now questions to ask on the top right side. So these are just examples of questions. You would learn a lot about that group also, that how close they are. Many labs have their social media presence. You can see how many, when they author papers, so how many students are generally on a project. So 1, 2, 5, 10, because that will tell you how uh, involved they are within themselves, or if they're competing within themselves. Because sometimes a professor have 5, 6 projects going on, and some professors, they like to have people who work on their very own specific projects, and they don't do help each other too much. Sometimes they have an environment where, and that becomes comparative within the lab, and sometimes they have where they are a lot of people are working with each other. So you'll see that paper author list, and that can give you some ideas. You can ask them if professor is hands-on or hands-off. So if the professor rolls up his sleeves and day to day comes and helps do some project steps with you or teaches you manually, or if it's more of a gives you a direction, helps you find answers to solutions, or maybe have is more collaborative. So there are many things that will help you define what kind of person you are and what kind of you want to do. So again, who do you want to talk with? Talk, ask the scientific question they are addressing, not the departments don't matter. And interestingly, the major that you are in doesn't necessarily mean you can do only you can do certain work. There can be multiple majors who can do certain thing. And interestingly, lots of labs today are very interdisciplinary. You may find a professor from one department having students from 5, 6 different departments working in his or her lab, because this is again a interdisciplinary work, not an undergrad or high school lab where you are specifically working with your own class fellows. Here's a picture from a book that I share with many students. And the y-axis is the general areas of industry, right? Machines, manufacturing materials. And x-axis is the engineering disciplines. So you can see that multiple engineering disciplines would serve multiple different industries. So in the same way, if you were to replace a y-axis with research questions, you would see many people from many different departments or backgrounds would be working on those research questions. So again, for you, do not confine yourself to the kind of thing you say I want to be. I say I want to be an electrical engineer, and I want to work on uh, say how can you make a bike more efficient? Yeah, there are specific issues which may be related to how people do biking, right? So now, where are all those programs, research programs? We were talking about individual professors, right? Now, let's take the scope a little bit wider. We say there are universities who do lots of activities focused on engaging high school and undergrad students. Now, that is, there are again specific paths of how you can come across them and how you can get involved with that. Almost every institution has some programs that through which they manage those things. So they might call it STEM outreach, and they may have a department or a university-wide uh, program. What generally in US they call that vice president of research office. So there's a vice president who's just focused on research effort. So on their in their websites or on their portfolio are all the research activities that are going on that campus. They have all the not just functional activities but also operational activities. So they would know that okay, this is focused on undergrad involvement, this is focused for graduate involvement, and this is a center level activity. So they have see they're not just directions but different functions also. So they can help you in those websites can help you look for those programs. And I can tell you, most of these programs are paid. So if you get selected, they will pay you for that activity for working with them. They will mentor you. They will, in some cases, if it's in another city, they would provide you living space as well on campus. I found few list of programs, and again, these are pre-COVID. Now, many of those programs have become virtual because they need to continue that work. So I, instead of putting the whole links, I just made small URL. So if you do tinyurl.com/STEM matters dash research, and then 1, 2, 3, you'll find the links for a few top university research programs who are focused on undergrad and high school students. There are many times there are regional or on-campus activities by professional organizations. I know electrical engineers, IEEE. I'm also a member of another Biomedical Engineering Society called BMES. I'm part of Biophysical Society, and they all have student chapters, and they promote lots of on-campus activities. Now, here you may not get paid because these are student volunteer activities, but you may get exposure to leadership activities, to arrange some activities where you will enable lots of research activities going on. And what way does that help you? That helps you in building your resume. When you say, okay, what do I do in a regional conference? And we have done conferences, me and Dr. Nasser Ali, we have done conferences where we have involved lots of undergrads to help us with, say, registration and setting up booths and setting up in making sure the needs of our guests are taken care of. So, but that gives you a, a chance to meet a Nobel laureate at that place. That will give you a chance to listen to those outstanding speakers that you may not have a chance to ever uh, see at in that age group, right? So that gives you of course, then you'll get involved, then you'll definitely be part of that enterprise. But that those stages, those levels, these conferences would give you that access to that. Now again, post-COVID, things have gone online, but that has not stopped from a need. That has not stopped those conferences for need of volunteers who can maybe make flyers, who can maybe take care of social media, and that builds up your leadership in your resume. Now, COVID-19 has dramatically changed a lot of things. I can tell you the demand for students has gone up. The demand for domestic students in whichever area you are has gone up, and it has given a level playing field for students from developing countries with the students from developed countries. Because guess what? We have moved everything online. So it serves you better because now the activities or accessibility is the same now for you. For a student who is in a developing country with a student who is already in West, for example. So in this new normal, professors are okay because they say even a local student would be doing the same thing. So why then the 4 resume I've got, your nationality is becoming having less of an impact there. It's I wouldn't say becoming irrelevant, but it is not a big problem because of the visa issues or embassies. A lot of programs are going online, so it's bringing out new opportunities for students all over the world. Right? Any questions? Because there's lots of information, but this will be posted on Facebook on our YouTube channel as well. So we can go back and take a look at those things. Shakil, how are we doing?
So we are at 45 minutes into the talk. Thank you so much so far. Do you think we'll have time for the question answers?
Yeah, that's my plan. So probably in next session, which is preparing a compelling resume, we'll wrap up.
Okay,
So,
great.
okay, we all have made resumes, or we all have at least known that one day I have to make a resume to put my best foot forward, or to sell myself in a way that I get a good position, maybe I get into a good program. Of course, that's what we're talking about. So my suggestion, and we have given lots of workshop on that, is make 2 form, long form and short form. Long form is your kind of a database of everything that you have done. And then short form is your uh, tapered, directed resume that you'll be using for any particular application, any particular place that you are going to use it for. And but the whole purpose is, of course, always to stand out from the crowd, stand out from everybody else. Now, the long form, or your what you call it, your database, it should be modular, so you can take the sections in and out depending on whatever is more relevant to the whatever your goal is, whether it's a research program, whether it's a job. Now, why we say that? Because you are always confined to in many cases to one page, because even a professor would be looking for specific things in a resume, and we'll talk about what are those specific things. And, and they have to come very quickly to that person. But of course, if you are talking at a seniors level in academia, then there's a long form, because in that case, other things become important. But today we are focused on young folks, how to get involved and how do you make a compelling resume. Show leadership. So there are leadership activities which can stand you out, because think about it, research, as I said before, there's no handbook, there's no textbook to do research. There are always new problems coming up. So leadership tells a professor, tells a person that you are resourceful. You would be a team member. You would be able to deal with folks, with people from other cultural backgrounds. You'd be socially active. You'll be confident. So there are all these activities that you may have done would tell me, overall we call it leadership qualities, that you are a leader. You can communicate, you can help others, you can find solutions, you can find multiple possible solutions to a problem. So think about it, if you are running a lab of 10 people and uh, two of them always come to you with the problem statement, and then two of them come with problem statement, and then two, three possible solutions, maybe very simple solutions. So it's a professor or an advisor will spend a little bit less time with those who have some idea of how to solve this. So that shows, and it's not something that we cannot learn. This is what we practice when we get involved in these activities. Uh, this is the second slide on the same idea. Let me go back. So sports, cross-cultural experiences, social groups, internships, volunteering. So volunteering is something again where when you volunteer, you're doing different things in different voluntary positions. It's hardly ever the same thing. Maybe if you are developing, if you're working with the same kind of organization, but that shows a person your leadership activities. But there are student activities, organizations that where you can be part of and do something. There's some passion projects like gardening, for example, or where you maybe want to you make something, you do coding, or you have a some. I had a student who had put lots of code on GitHub, so that was a passion for that student. And it can be simple things, can be very uh, involved things, but they all need to have something which is quantifiable achievement. You have to quantify how did that work change something. How was that? If you got scholarship, you got some money for doing something. Were you on a? You got high grades. You got an award. Maybe your work was in a publication. One fantastic student from YPS, her work was cited in a newspaper recently. We had our students whose work was in publication, various publications, in university publications, in city publications. If you, so there are, of course, if you do some part-time work, then is you have done something with sales, you got promoted before others, and so there are so many things. If you work with the political campaign and you were in charge of 4 people or 10 people, or it has to be quantifiable. It has to show what are some numbers. If it is not an accomplishment, it does not go on your resume. Yeah, if you say I was performing XY duty, okay, so what? Everybody was performing that. If you are on time for meetings, okay, so what? Everybody was on time. So, and being friendly, being going going somewhere on daily basis. But of course, if it is a student attendance award, okay, then you may have to show that you were there. But just attending something, so it has to be not just quantifiable. It should not be vague, right? So good grades, okay. What does that mean? Good grades. Everybody's got good grades. So then you have to ask that, is it vague or is it specific? So here are some examples, right? An award for best art. But when you say, okay, what category, what time frame, and you think about it, this would give you a chatting points for your professor or whoever you're going for your position. Those people like to talk to you about that. I know my when I started as assistant professor, my very first student, on her resume, the interesting thing was she got a gold medal, and I started talking to her about her gold medal, and I saw she could communicate very well. Yeah, she published 4 papers as a master's student. So these are the things which will help your resume have more impact and more depth. There's a long list of things. You should never put a resume on STEM, right? Objective statement. No, we'll talk to you when you get in the door. Your mailing address. Nowadays, yeah, email and phone number works the best for initial contact. Your social media profiles, unless it serves the purpose of that resume. Personal details. We still in this day and time, we see resumes with the marital status, with the passport number, with date of birth, with the siblings. How many siblings? No one. Nobody. It's illegal even in some places to consider those things in deciding for who to hire. Your picture, headshot, buzzwords, no, color schemes, uh, bold font, unnecessary bolding and reverse coloring, all that. These are uh, as objective, accomplished professional seeking career growth. Of course, you have applied because you want that. You do PhD, what do you do? With people say, oh, you do PhDs and then you are useless. You have very narrow job, uh, uh, narrow number of jobs that you can go to. No, I can tell you, PhDs are working in Wall Street. PhDs are working with policy. PhDs are working with governments and helping them decide the future of nations and all over the place. They've also been considered to be part of the meltdowns of financial markets as well. But anyway, they are. It's not just academia. It's not just being a professor that's the end goal of a PhD. There are PhDs who are working in deciding your 5G network, right? So, all right. So almost there. Again, lots of students. These are just my first group of students when I was young without a beard. And this long list of students, long list of collaborators who have helped me get where I am. All right, questions?
Great, thank you, Dr. Iqbal. Audience, my request is if you can raise hand or type your question in the chat box, that will be greatly appreciated. You can unmute yourself and ask question. Dr. Iqbal, one question. The students who are going to look for research opportunities, is it a good idea to send a couple of dozen, kind of throwing a wider net to find research opportunities and send requests to several different professors?
So yes, the more the merrier, but the most important thing is you have to know the kind of work they're doing, and you have to spend at least half an hour on the background of that professor or that research entity or organization, because it becomes evident if you have not read through and if you don't exactly know their kind of work from your email. It's evident that if somebody has not read through, but no, for sure, I can tell you, especially in these days, there you'll see the professor will be competing to have you in their lab, because for obvious reason there's less mobility for students coming from other places, from abroad or from other countries. So yeah, you should apply for many more. And because professor will also be offering those positions or those places to more students, because they know that because of visa issues or from. So I have to take care of domestic and international, all students here. Yeah, it's a good idea, but you need to do your homework before you do that.
Another question, how about the link between the research work done in the college while you're doing undergrad or master's and the your demand or your being able to get into the industry based on the experience that you gain while doing the research?
Right. So if you think about it, when you do a research project, your research project is the end, but the means that you employ to get to those end are transferable skills. You deal with, you acquire data, a skill. You uh, purpose, repurpose that data. You want to get rid of some fields and you do data analytics, transferable skill. You put graphics, transferable skill. You write prose or story that you publish in a paper, transferable skill. You talk to people, transferable skills. So think about it, your project, at that time, it seems that professor is pushing just to publish that paper or to go to that conference. But during this path, we all learn so many skills that are directly transferable in an industry.
Dr. Mal, did we lose you?
Right? So that addresses the question, right?
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. There's another
So,
question on
and
chat
I
box.
can tell you, in industry, I have seen students deciding which way they want to go instead of market deciding which way they go. So I have seen students, if they wanted to go in academia, they would go to academia. If they want to go to industry, they go to industry. And
Um,
industry pays more to people who have higher education and bigger degree.
and just to add, Dr. Iqbal here, being in the industry and a hiring manager, when I look at the resume and if I see a young person has done some kind of research or has been in some research lab, that automatically goes on top of my list for the consideration. So if you have done research or if you have published a paper as part of the team, it gives you a lot of mileage when you're going to apply for the job in the industry. Dr. Ball, in the chat box, we have a bunch of questions.
All right, yeah, let me address them. So how would you recommend getting leadership opportunity for medical ethic volunteering? I can tell you, for medical, especially in these days, there's lots of knowledge that needs to be transferred. There are lots of new information coming up. There is advocacy. That's probably the number one thing. Right now, we have to advocate. We have to tell people the right things to do and how to sift through lots of information that's not true. So I'm just giving an example that and there are groups who need help in getting those words across. There's, I can tell you a few places where I have volunteered. There's, I wouldn't name the organization. There are organizations which are related to cancer research. There are organizations which are related to older folks. There are organizations which are related to heart, and they're always looking for volunteers to help them manage programs, to get the word out, uh, to manage their digital presence for that matter. There are clinics who are overburdened, there are hospitals who are overburdened. So I can, and then of course there are medical practitioners who have had published in past, but maybe they become too busy in clinics. They need folks who can keep on producing some research and keep on pushing some what do you call the pushing the envelope in that medical research. So that's again many different flavors can be there for medical volunteering. I had students for whom I wrote letters in past who were just volunteering as some of them volunteering at hospital in the uh, triage. Before you have to receive patients and put them on their wheelchair and haul them to These are undergrad students. These are not, but that was a valuable experience, which showed that they were teamwork, that would show that they were socially active and would talk to people. The other question, I'm undergrad in digital art and design. How can I get volunteer work or internship according to my field? Today, any starting organization, hey, we can give you a volunteer work and internship because they want a digital presence. They want to come up with creative graphics. So this is where, and of course, there are websites as well where you can work, you can put some work out and you can ask for commission to get some there's a fiverr.com, there's a couple of other places where you can get some paid work even from there. But new organizations, new uh, startups or non-profits would definitely get help from you in digital design to create their material for projection. Professor Al-Malul, oh yeah, how are you doing, Professor Malul? Good to hear from you. All right, Casey, I, I work for Nokia. They have advertised some internship opportunity for next summer. Students are encouraged to research these on the portal. Yeah, so this is again, if you look at, like, for example, Casey has said that on Nokia, they have lots of internship opportunities for next summer. Shakil is managing internship opportunities as well. And but I can tell you, every industry is already starting to develop their. This is the best time when they start developing their internship program for next summer. So they are getting ready. We'll see how COVID thing evolves, but they're ready to set the program. Even if they couldn't do it in person, it will definitely go on virtual, and they'll have a meaningful experience for all of us. All right, so I see a question on Facebook Live that can you post your contact information? Yeah, so our email address is info@stemmatters.org, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that comes our way.
For me, if I could just ask a question, this youngsters who are contemplating in doing a PhD, obviously, it's a big undertaking. It's at least 3 years to do it in the UK and at least 5 years to complete a PhD in the US. But after doing a PhD, would you say, does that guarantee a job, and does it guarantee a better paid job?
Yeah, so it's a same question that I asked myself 15 years ago, that I'm doing PhD, I'm putting so much effort into it, what's going to happen? And my dad was always a very perceptive person. He'd say, okay, just take another semester and then you can leave and take your master's and go. And he kept on giving me hope semester after semester. I ended up, we were lucky to publish a Nature article at that time, and that opened the door. And I can tell you, I've not seen a single person in States who didn't get competitive offers, multiple offers. And this is the thing, if you go for PhD and you don't see this, yeah, master's is yours. You can take a master's with thesis, master without thesis. But the simple answer to Dr. Nasser's question, I have seen people having multiple offers after doing PhD in STEM, because those are transferable. And it's again going back to the first question, you may not be exactly doing what you did in your PhD, but you have transferable skills that you have achieved in publishing that work, and that goes to your advantage. And that's what that employer is hiring you for, right? Because for 3 years or 5 years, you have day in, day out used those skills to create new knowledge, right? And industry is not creating new knowledge. Industry is interested in making money out of current knowledge. And who's better person than you?
Dr. Bal, just to intervene a quick, so my request to all of those before we wrap up in next 5 minutes, I just posted the link, tinyurl.com/OCT-18-feedback. If you can please provide the feedback, that will be very, very helpful to us to plan future talks, which are important to you, which are beneficial to you, and we will accordingly schedule our things. So please, while you're listening to the answers from Dr. Iqbal, please go to the URL that I posted in the chat box to provide us feedback. Dr. Iqbal, there's another question in the chat box.
Yeah, I'll address that. Shakil, can you copy this in our Facebook Live as well, the link for the feedback? Yeah. And what's important for the feedback, it's not just us, we want to hear from you that what topics should we cover like this, and what simple topic, and many of them with young professional society, because they and us, we overlap and we have complementary expertise at our disposal that we want to use to help you all. So if I'm in the next question, if you're interested in having a career in the medical field, doctor, physician, pediatrician, etc., what type of research would you recommend I do to prepare myself for those careers? Which universities in the Dallas area are best for this type of research? Now, there's two levels. If you are pre-med or if you are already in med school, for pre-med, I suggest that get involved in a research that has a direct impact on healthcare. Because even after your med school, during match, those published papers can make a big difference on where you get residency. Now, during medical studies, there are, and this is what I tell you and what I tell to everyone. Nowadays, medical degrees, many of them at top schools, they have started doing dual degree program, MD, PhD, MD, JD, MD, MBA. Even at Urbana, UI, UC, they have started a medical degree, which is many engineers, top engineers have helped them define their curriculum. Because going forward, you can have, yes, we salute our healthcare people and doctors, nurses, and all the various staff. But the growth or higher impact is coming where we can do devices, maybe where we can design devices where you have the very intimate knowledge of how we work, how we operate, or how disease works, and what is the hallmarks of disease, to keep the language simple. So those dual degrees can give you a very higher impact even during your education, where you can get involved as part of the curriculum into research. But as pre-med undergrad, I say getting that flavor of those people who are working on healthcare questions can give you a very a world view of how things happen, because just not the clinical side, you'll also see how can an engineer help solve some problems? How can a scientist take care of some basic issues that keep on happening in a clinic? How can a statistician help you get some numbers to see which approach is better than the other? So that's what I suggest. Now, when you ask about Dallas area, okay, Dallas is a unique place. Within 50 miles, we have 5-6 amazing universities, right? So, and lots of work going on in those places. In Dallas area, we have, it just said UT Southwestern, we have, I think, 5 Nobel laureates. So now this is where you have to find and define your paths of what kind of work you want to do, what opportunities are there.
I'll again remind the audience, please do not forget to provide us feedback, because that will be our way of finding out what exactly is your area of concern, or what you want to know more about, and how we can help you. We have Dr. Iqbal, a very precious resource with us, and he's so gracious and kind to do these talks. So we really want to benefit from him. So please do provide your feedback so that we can accordingly arrange the relevant beneficial topics, talks on beneficial topics. Any other question?
All right, so I think we should beg leave. So this talk will be available, the recording will be available on 3 channels at our Facebook page, Young Professional Society Facebook page, and 4 channels, and 2 YouTube channels as well. And we'll be happy to have more discussion. You have our email address. you have this feedback link. So share what you liked, what you did not like, what topics would you like to see more, and we'll be happy to have more engaging programs going forward.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Paul. Have a good rest of the evening. I know you're in UK, and for others wherever you're from, have your good rest of the day or rest of the evening. Take care. See you guys. Bye-bye.